JB here, JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Monday, September 22nd, 3:30 on this fine afternoon talk. Really quick about markets. Some names I'm looking at go from there. Excuse me. S&P all-time highs. Looks like pending any crazy 30-minute sell. I mean, S&P's up 0.5% here, but more all-time highs. Just impressive stuff. Apple soaring today. I guess reports that the iPhone 17 or the iPhone 20, whatever iteration, part of my sarcasm, supposedly strong demand. That's helping. NVIDIA had some news with OpenAI, $100 billion investment earlier. And it was like the market was just on track anyway. So just kind of added some gas to the fire. And here we are, however many weeks and months removed from April 7th, and the market just keeps going despite all the headwinds that we've encountered over that time frame, right? The recession calls, the credit rating downgrade, geopolitical tensions, Ukraine. I mean, the list goes on and on. And then now we're in kind of this next couple weeks, a little lull in regards to catalysts. So we'll see if markets can hold up here. Just impressive stuff. Talked about this morning. Upper Bollinger Band was 664. 21 somewhere there on the SPY. We're well above that now, up at 667. So we'll see what tomorrow brings. Interesting stuff. I mean, gold soaring again today, up 2%. And the VIX has been stubborn. So, market keeps going higher. So you have to think more of that's just a function of folks protecting themselves, right? So, anyway, it's kind of the overall market here. The small caps were kind of struggling out of the gate this morning, and those have went on a tear. I mean, it's up 0.6%. They were in the red earlier today. So IWM was down to 241. So just good stuff. What catalyst could happen this week that's going to derail the markets? You had the sole dissenter on the Fed vote last week. Stephen, I forget how you pronounce his name, but he came on at 12 o'clock for his Fed speech, and he pretty much, I forget one of the quotes that said that we shouldn't involve ourselves too much in market forces based on inflation, something like that. It was kind of like an ironic comment, because here's the person who wanted to do a 0.5% rate cut, and then on the flip side is saying, oh, we shouldn't intervene too much. So that didn't move markets either. GDP, the last final read will be on Thursday. Obviously, weekly jobless claim numbers. Micron reports earnings after the close tomorrow, but outside of that, it's probably chop and maybe some headline-driven events. So sometimes that's good stuff. And to me, small caps, they continue doing what they're doing. I think continue to be some opportunities. So that's quick overall market. So now just individual names, and Duolingo finally, knock on wood. Sometimes I don't like to talk too much about some of these names to jinx them. But funny enough, a lot of times I talked about it with Lemonade. I get weekly options. They expire on Friday, and then the stock does what I wanted it to do on Monday, as opposed to doing it on Friday when the options expire. Just funny how it works. But finally, Duolingo did what I was hoping it would do last week and the week before, when it had the lotto calls. Finally took off. So I was actually looking at it. I think it was 290. 292, 291 at the open, and was bouncing around. I was looking, I'm like, the 320s look interesting. Then they were like $1 maybe. So then it started to go, it was 294. I tried to get the 320s at like $1.20, and then I finally just went up to the 325s, got those for $1.70. Not one's the price I typically pay on a weekly strike, but Duolingo, very, very volatile. So, and not only that, as it goes, the premiums creep in very quickly. So in my the rationalization there would be, even if it got to 310, let's say Wednesday, the 325s would at least hold the premium or be in the green. Sure enough, it spikes all the way up to 310.92 by almost, I guess, 10:15. Used to move the lock some of my calls in for over 100% to cover costs, and I just held the rest. I was actually looking at possibly like the 350s, and the 350s were 95 cents. They were over $1, then back at 80. Let's see what they are right now. 75 by $1. To me, I don't want to press my luck, right? So I'll just hold the rest of the 325s. We'll see what tomorrow brings. It's not the most perfect description or analogy to describe what I think is the overreaction by folks who think that these translation services, whether it be Google Translate, the Meta glasses, AI, all these different avenues that you can get to translate now. I don't think it supplants teaching, right? I use the bad, and it's not the best comparison, but like the calculator did not stop people from teaching math, right? You still have to learn math. And I'm not saying that everybody needs, there's people who want to learn languages, people who don't. I think that's always going to be the case, right? I mean, you're not going to sit there and go to a different country and want to be on your glasses to translate, or whatever it might be. So anyway, I just think that the sell-off is an overreaction. There's an opportunity when there's opportunity, especially in a name that's very volatile. I think there's some nice possibilities for some, maybe 345, 350 this week. Take a look at the 50-day moving average, 327. So call me crazy. I think it trades. I think it trade 350. So we'll see how tomorrow plays out. If there's continuation, I'll look for some more strikes there. But nice pay there on that one. And then just earlier today, I finally back in TTD. The last time I was in TTD was uh, the S&P 500 edition, right? I got the calls on a Monday. I think the news came out Tuesday after the close, and wake up Wednesday and those calls are up a couple thousand%. I haven't been in it. I almost traded for earnings. Thankfully, didn't do that. And then it's kind of been like, I don't even know if it's after its recent earnings, they had the issues. I think their CFO left, and you looked at the earnings like, wow, great earnings, but stock just got pummeled. And I think some of it is because the expectations of the company has been hyped up so much, that the market's like, oh wow, this is, they overhyped it, or set expectations so high that it was kind of like a reset of expectations. And it's still like, at some point you got to think there's a bottom here. Another analyst out this morning lowering the price target to $50. I think at some point it's going to go on one of those 2 to 3 session runs where it's up 15 to 20% over that time frame. So I'm hoping that's it. I was actually looking for strikes for next week or the week after. I'm like, you know what? I'll keep it small, keep it on a weekly basis. If I get a chance to lock some in to cover costs, I will. I think it heads north of 50 this week. Call me crazy. So that's TTD. SERV Robotics sitting here, actually a tight range considering its move on Thursday and Friday. So not going to add anything more just yet. 1375 is the key area, of course. It's at 1380 here with 22 minutes left in the day. Hopefully that holds. GameStop, right? I think it. I don't know if I have the tweet, but I think it was up 4.5% earlier. One of its bigger uh, daily gains in quite some time. Finally, I mean, maybe this is it. I put on a watch list this morning. I'm like, GameStop, one of these days is going to tell the market to hold its beer. It's just going to take off to the races. It has gaps to fill. I think it's 28.25. I was looking earlier to add some higher strikes, but for now, just hold the October 30s. I was able to close some of those out to cover costs for 100%. At some point, when it starts to rally, the premiums are going to explode. So that's my concern, is like, I don't want to be too late to adding some more strikes. So maybe tomorrow's the day if there's continuation. And then other names I'm looking for bounces, right? So, MDB obviously into its earnings, that was, sold off, create an opportunity. Then obviously, earnings, it was up $100. A couple days later, by the end of the week, it was up, I forget, like 40% on a week. FICO is another name, right? And FICO, some of the reasons it's got destroyed over the last couple of months is because Pulte, I think it is, excuse me, sorry. He's talking about, there's a standard, right? When you get a mortgage, people look at different scores to set the bar for, what kind of financing they get, the rate and all that fun stuff. And FICO's been kind of like the standard. And I think they're like trying to get rid of them as that gold standard. So one of those names I got to dig a little more on. I remember looking at FICO back in the day, maybe it was $100. I used to look at Equifax when they had their big breach. That used to be a fun one to trade. This could be a nice bounce trade. So the issue, of course, is the premiums. $1,500 stock, tough to find decent risk reward strikes. But that's another one that I might look for a bounce on. And I think that's it, folks. I'm running out of breath here. I was looking at Joby again. I mean, it's funny. I was looking Friday. I'm like, okay, this could be finally the breakout point. And then boom, sold off all the way down to $15 at the open, and it's been bouncing ever since. Tomorrow could be the day on Joby. I might look for some more strikes there. And that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back. Rock and roll.